mentioned, the Washington Post broke the story. Joining us live now to talk about the latest developments is Peter Finn, national security editor at the Post. Peter, thanks for being on the program.
Happy to be with you.
So we heard what the director of the London-based Cage described, how he described Jihadi John. He said he was kind, gentle, soft-spoken, humble. Explain to us how this man became radicalized, his path to extremism based on what the Washington Post newspaper is reporting and what it's found out.
Well, we know some things. I don't think we can be absolutely categorical about how he was radicalized. We know that in 2009, he was on a trip to Tanzania, was stopped from entering the country, held for overnight and questioned by the Tanzanians. And apparently that was because of British suspicion that he may have wanted to go to Somalia. He was sent back via Amsterdam. When he was in Amsterdam, he was interviewed by a British security agent. He claimed that he attempted to recruit him. Subsequently, the following year, he was in Kuwait. He came back to London. He apparently was planning to marry in Kuwait, but when he wanted to return to Kuwait, the country of his birth, he was barred from going there by the British security services, presumably based on further suspicion. This apparently alienated him quite greatly, and he felt like he was a prisoner in London. Sometime in 2012, we don't know exactly when, he made his way to Syria. So as you can see, there are significant gaps. We know a certain amount about him, but we don't know everything about him.
Peter, do you think the fact we know his name, Mohammed Emwazi, does it make him more of a target? Will this make it easier to catch him? And why do you think at this point, no official person in national intelligence has actually denied or confirmed whether this is the guy?
Yeah, I think the key word there is no one has denied. They are, of course, reluctant to confirm. As to whether this will make it easier to target him, the fact of the name being public, I don't think so. If you remember, back in September, FBI Director James Comey said, "We have identified this man." So the security services have known his name for some time. Presumably whatever they were doing to monitor him or attempt to monitor him and his circle, they've been doing for many months now.
Peter, what about strategy? The fact that we know this man's identity, does it change anything as far as fighting ISIL?
Well, I think it says to everyone that you can't hide behind a mask, that you will be identified, that it will have repercussions for you. And I think that is part of why this has happened and why some people spoke to us.
Do you think, as for when it comes to recruiting, the fact that we know his identity, it might deter, disillusion young men and women from joining this group?
That is very hard to know. I mean, clearly we see that this organization has tremendous allure. They have 20,000 foreign fighters from 90 countries who have flocked to Syria. So there are many, many elements to this attraction. Some of them social media, some of them the ambition of creating a caliphate, some of them the desire for adventure, some of them a sense of alienation from Western culture. There are many, many reasons, not always fully understood, as to why this is happening and on such a scale.
We're learning authorities used a variety of investigative techniques to identify Jihadi John or Mohammed Emwazi. Do you know what some of the other techniques, beside voice recognition, what other techniques were used?
Well, I mean, they have not discussed that with us. We did our own reporting. We weren't relying on the authorities in any way to help us identify this man. I presume they did many of the things we did. They pounded the pavement. They found people who might know him. Then they found people who did know him. Then they built a profile of him.
Peter Finn, fascinating article, and congratulations to Washington Post for breaking the story.